It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast and Show. I'm your host as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you go to learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. So normally I do these shows on Tuesdays. Obviously, yesterday was the 4th of July holiday, and I don't know about you, I was enjoying some barbecue and doing some very, very bad karaoke at a friend's house. So I figured, you know what? I'll go ahead and do my show on Wednesday so I can still get you guys the information you need to succeed in the dating world. So that's what the show is today. And so today I wanted to talk about the dating app prompt that asks guys to mention what it is that they're looking for in terms of a length of time of relationship, whether it's short-term, long-term, or long-term, open or short, etc. I see time and time again when I'm on Reddit, I go to the Hinge app forum and dudes will be there saying, hey, review my profile because I don't know what's up. And every guy is putting down an answer to the what are they looking for prompt. And I fundamentally believe that that is by far the worst prompt that dating app companies have ever decided to put on their dating apps. And it's especially bad for men to be answering. And I want to go over why that is today. And so we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why the what I'm looking for prompt on these dating apps is pointless and what you should be doing instead. And so we're going to get into that. Also, as always, I got a bunch of comments this past week that I want to be able to answer for you guys. And so I'm going to answer them on today's live as well. Ultimately, guys, this show is about you. And so if there's any questions or comments that you want to make during the course of the show, simply leave them in the comment section on the talk box next to this video, and you'll be able to get your question answered by me live. All right. So also, as you guys know, we do have ebooks, audiobooks, coaching, other various things available at the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. So if you want a deeper dive into helping you figure out how to get this dating life of yours in the right situation, go to the website, check out the programs, check out the audiobooks, check out the ebooks, check out the programs. We'll be happy to help you out. All right. So before I get into the main topic of the show, I am going to talk about, I'm going to answer a few questions here that people have left me during the course of this week. So hopefully whoever watching this, it will help you out immensely. All right, so let's get into this first guy's comment. So this guy had a question. He asked, is it realistic to expect her to initiate texting 2 times out of 3 so they look invested and needy instead, even if she's been showing growing interest little by little during the process? Do most women disregard the fear of showing being too needy? Is being needy a bad trait in general, or is it a feminine trait, or both? So this is in response to what I always tell guys, which is that ideally, as a woman's interest starts to grow in you, you're going to find that if you are able to not be on your phone all the time, you will find that women are going to just naturally be inclined to want to reach out to you. But when you as the guy are constantly texting them first, not only does it prevent her from wanting to reach out to you, but on her end of things, you come across as looking needy and desperate, right? So I've said that. And so his question is asking, well, is it bad if people in general look needy or desperate, or is it something that females can get away with more so than guys? And my answer to both is yes. On the one hand, it is not great for either sex to actually be needy and desperate, because that's going to give off indications that they're maybe not that stable, or that they have very low self-esteem and are going to rely on their partner solely to get that boost of self-esteem. And I don't want you to think that you have to be solely responsible for how a woman feels about herself, because it's not ultimately your job. It's your job to treat her well, but it's not your job to be her constant hype person and always be the one that's making her feel like she's, a person worthy of being on this earth, because she should be developing those kind of things herself. All right. But the other thing I always stress is that if that type of behavior is happening, of the two of you, women are going to be able to get away with it a lot more, because as men, if a woman's reaching out to us to say, hey, handsome, or hey, how you doing? Or I want to see you today. Those are all positive indicators that guys need to know that, oh, this woman actually wants to see me, right? But it's also the kind of behavior that we're not going to judge them heavily on or read too much into. The problem is this, is that women are always going to read 2 to 3 times more into your words and your actions than you are expecting them to. This is why I tell you guys not to be overly verbal with your feelings, for example, because when you just say, if you just say to a girl after the second date, hey, I just want you to know I really like you and I think this could go somewhere, what she's hearing is, I've already decided on you and I've started picking out the ring. And that's why I tell you guys, if she's not there in her feelings, it can be really bad for you to verbalize and express feelings verbally, because she's going to read it as more than that and then think, well, if I'm not in the same place as he's at, then I got to be out. And she's reading where you're at as at the finish line. And you're thinking, I'm just saying it's been 2 dates and we're at like the starting point, but that I already see it potentially going well. But she's already thinking you've crossed that finish line. And so when you do behaviors that make women feel as though you're farther ahead in the process of dating than she is, it makes them uncomfortable. So this is why I tell you guys that it's better for her to do more of the reaching out. You want her to be doing basically 70 to 80% of the initiating of texting and calls. And I'm talking about texting and calls as it pertains to things outside of asking for a date. I still want you to be texting or ideally calling her when you want a date. That's when you're calling or texting with an intention and with a purpose, because we want you to really shine for this woman when you're in front of her one-on-one in person on a date where she can read you, feel you, touch you, hear you. If you say any kind of joke, it's going to be better for her to hear that from you with your vocal inclinations versus like trying to read it on text and then assuming what the meaning behind what you sent is. And so, yeah, she's going to be able to get away with the behavior of texting and calling a lot better because we don't read as much into it, but they do. And so if you text her, say 3 times in a row, back to back, for example, and you haven't let her respond yet, she's going to read those 3 texts back to back visually and say, oh my God, this looks like a needy guy. Now, if she does that to you, you're probably not going to judge her like that, but she's going to judge you that way. Versus if you let her initiate text and then you respond back, but you only send 1 text back at a time, and then you wait for her to send something else, then it's going to look like a more balanced and nuanced conversation. And it's not going to make you look desperate because you're not the one that's like trying to text her to get her attention all the time. And I think guys forget that part, that anything we're doing that looks like we're trying to force them to pay attention to us and force them to make a decision about us makes them feel like there must be a secret agenda that we have. Like, why are we forcing them to have to see us? Why are we forcing them to have to interact with us? And again, we're thinking that that's not what's going on. But it doesn't matter what you're thinking when you're doing these things. All that matters is how she's taking it and how she's feeling. And if she's feeling and taking these actions as if you're doing too much, and she's taking it as you're pressuring her, and she's taking it as this is way too much, then all that's going to matter is that you're failing out because how she's interpreting things. And hey, as a guy, I get it. We could spend all day trying to argue about how women should understand how guys communicate. It doesn't matter. It matters how our communication makes them feel. So the fact that we don't get so bothered by women constantly texting us means that they can get away with it a lot more than we can. And so you got to know that, and know that as women are building their interest in you, they're going to want to start to text more. And this is for any part of the dating game, whether it's like you're early on dating or you started dating and you're heavy into it, or even in the boyfriend and girlfriend stages when you're actually in a relationship, you still want her to be initiating the majority of text. That doesn't mean you don't ever text or ever initiate. I typically tell guys it's a 3-to-1 ratio. For every 3 texts she initiates, then you initiate 1. All right. So if you stick to that ratio, I have found that's what's worked best for me. So hopefully your results will be the same. Hopefully that helps you out. All right. So let's get on to the next question or comment that I have here. This is a long one that I'm going to go over a little bit later. Let's see. Okay. So this kind of piggybacks on what I was just talking about. This guy left a message and he said, I was mirroring a girl's texting behavior. She was super eager and we were constantly texting. Then she pulled away, which threw me. In later messages, she called me needy. I was literally copying her behavior. I wasn't needy. I was eager and excited. Women can't tell the difference. They want a guy who isn't so easy to catch, makes them feel like they've earned it. And my response to that is, you're right. So do that. Like, I think men miss out on the part where they feel as though we have to do all the work. The guys have been trained. We got to do all the calls. We got to set up all the dates. We got to initiate all these various conversations about things. And so we get made to believe that we're supposed to be the ones doing all this stuff. And because we feel as though we want to make it as easy for women as possible to be able to date us and not have any roadblocks in the way or any hoops for them to jump through. But the reality is you need to set up hoops for women to jump through, because women are going to more appreciate a guy that they had to work for and earn than a guy that just gave them everything on a silver platter. All right. And so, yeah, it's like what it goes back to what I said earlier, is that there are some behaviors in dating that men can get away with more than women, and that women can get away with more than men can. And so when this woman was super duper texting you, that's an example of an activity that as a woman, she can get away with, because it's not going to typically bother men all that much. And we're not going to read heavy into all this texting means that, oh my gosh, she's trying to pressure me into a relationship. Like, we're just like, if she's texting us more, great, it means it's a faster road to getting a hookup and potentially getting some kisses and then eventually a relationship, right? But when we do the same thing, it makes them feel like it's too much too soon. It makes us feel like there's pressure. And then women are also start doing this thing where, you know, they might complain about, oh, this guy doesn't text me, this guy doesn't call me, all this other stuff, right? So they're used to complaining about that. But when they get a guy that is actually like trying to call them back all the time right away, or text them back as soon as she texts him, you would think that that's what they want, right? But what's actually usually happens is the woman will be like, wow, he's so eager to text me back. And he's so, you know, he's on it right when he calls. When I call him, he calls me back. I text him, he texts me back. Something's funny about this guy. What's going on? Why is it that he's so able to give me all of his attention right away versus making me wait? Like, is there something wrong with him? Does he not have a life going on? Are there other women out there that are rejecting him? Like, why is he so quick to respond to me? Doesn't he have a life going on? Doesn't he have other goals going on outside of me that he should be busy with? Like, it actually paints a negative connotation when you're doing things at the same level as her. Because here's the thing about dating, right? Especially as it pertains to women, is that oftentimes the want or desire for something is a stronger way for a woman to build interest than actually giving her what she wants. So guys will say, well, she said I thought that she wanted me to text her more. Yeah. And that want of wanting you to text her is what's making her build faster emotions for you stronger, because she's not getting what she wants right away. So she's building anticipation. She's waiting. It's a mystery as to when or if you'll text her or call her back. And as much as guys don't like to hear that, all those things are things that make women build attraction to you faster. So when you measure up with a woman's way of doing things in terms of like texting and calling, then you're actually at a negative, because you're not giving her the thing that she needs, which is to want to hear from you versus actually hearing from you. And I go, guy logic, it sounds absolutely dumb at times. But again, I'm all for, I don't care what I feel is dumb. I care about what works and what is effective for the woman. And if for women at large, it's more effective to have to wait to hear from me even for a little bit, then that's what I'm going to do. Now, guys will hear this and think, but that's playing games. I don't want to mess with her heart, blah, 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 blah. And to that I say, you need to already be a guy in the first place that has other things going on in his life outside of just trying to get with this woman, because women are going to like that. But more to the point, if you understand why it is that women actually need you to not be so readily available, you will see that to them, that's not playing a game. To them, that's just you being a regular guy that's out doing regular stuff. It's at the point where you're always available that to them, it feels more like playing a game. Because now it's like, he's always in front of me. He's always trying to text me like, what's he trying to do? He's trying to force me to something. And that feels more off-putting than a woman who's like, oh, I got to wait an extra 3 hours to hear from him. Oh my God, okay, but I really like him, so I'm going to wait. So learn that is okay. It is okay to be a guy that is patient and is pulling back a bit and is not always so eager. And the other thing too is that eagerness of the two of you, as I've said time and time again on the show, of the two of you, she can get away with showing signs of being eager and really wanting to see you. Your job is to show up. Your job is to call her up for a date, which lets her know that in some capacity you want to see her. It is not her job to know at what level of like you have up until the point where she starts asking you about being in a relationship. All right. So that guessing game of her thinking, I can't tell where this guy's like is for me, that's going to keep you in the running a lot longer than like, oh, I already know he likes me. Well, yawn. Well, let's go see some other guys. And that's not the reaction you want. So if you're wanting women, you have to know what women are best responding to. And this isn't you being a liar. This isn't being you being a negative guy. If anything, this is you positively understanding how if you're a bit more patient in your dating game, that women are going to actually respond better to that versus a guy that is trying to lay everything out on the table, which makes her feel like this guy's now trying to rush it, which is not something that she actually wants. So hopefully, guys, this helps you out. All right, we'll answer one more question on here before we go into the crux of the show. As always, guys, this show is about you. So if you have any questions or comments you want to leave in the chat, I'll be happy to answer them on this show. As always, you can also go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, for one-on-one coaching, as well as for my ebooks and audiobooks. I also have right now there a free webinar masterclass on the 3 keys to attracting highly attractive women. So you can check that out for free at the website as well. All right, so let's get into one more of these comments. So this actually was left by a woman, and I couldn't tell if this woman was being sarcastic or she was agreeing with me in my assessment based on the video. So the video that was commented under was the video I did called "She Never Initiates Text. Is She Pulling Away?" And so the comment she left was, "Finally, someone that has an idea about women, ... I was trying to figure out why he is," so I guess she's dating a guy. And she says, "I was trying to figure out why he is not texting me first. It is just so difficult to initiate. Women need to feel safe. They need time for that, months, especially after horrible experiences with men that just used them, manipulated them, etc. The nicest thing would be to feel safe, to get clarity from a man, to feel love and trust, and for those reasons to let him lead. In that case, we all are happy. The woman will feel safe, so the man will have his space and lead. Masculine energy plus feminine energy. Make the math, guys. You don't want a bossy woman controlling insecure one, and we don't want someone that has not had the balls to do the first steps, just saying." So when I talk a lot about texting and about the idea of women initiating text, I think that the words that I'm using aren't always taken in the context or tone that they're actually meant. And I know that sometimes when women hear these concepts from guys, there's an initial reaction to want to just react to something and not really dig into the intention behind it. So I can't tell this woman was like insulting me or not agreeing with me or disagreeing with me. But I will say this, the part where, because she's talking about the fact that like they want men to lead. And I think there's a misconception about if a woman's the one that's initiating text, that means that she's leading. And that's not what I ever mean at all, because I tell guys time and time again, they should be using texting, but more specifically calling, to set up dates. So in terms of men texting, it is your job as the man to lead the interaction towards a date. If you are ever initiating a text with a woman, then your purpose of sending that text should be to lead it towards getting a date. So I don't want you to do any of this frivolous conversation like, "Hey, how are you? How's your day going? Tell me about blah, 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 blah." No. At the point where, especially if you already started going out on dates with her, then your text should be like, "Hey, gorgeous, was thinking about going to see this movie on Tuesday. I'm free at this time or this time. Let me know what your schedule is like." Like, that's how you want to initiate text. So as the guy, yes, the guy is still going to lead the interaction in terms of trying to set up dates. But what I'm getting at is this natural inclination for women. When they finally meet a guy that they feel is of value to them and is different from all the other guys that she's been trying to go out with, that she is not going to be able to help herself but to want to reach out more. Because as I said before, women don't come across guys that they gel with every day. You know, they might have 10 guys in their DMs and might decide to go out with maybe like 3 or 4 of them. And I can assure you, most of those guys are going to fail out. Like, she's going to meet up with them in person, and it might be a cordial date. It might be a nice meal and a nice conversation, but ultimately, for the most part, she's not going to feel like this is going to lead towards a full-on relationship. And that's the experience of most women, based on the ones that I've interviewed and talked to and dated, is that most of those first dates are going to end up not being anything, right? And so a woman can go months, years even, without meeting a guy that she feels she fully connects with, right? So at the point where she finally goes out with you, guy, and you're like everything. You've got a great job. You make her feel good. She's laughing the whole time. You guys have similar interests. She's feeling the chemistry. You're giving her those little butterflies that she's been missing for like 2 or 3 years since her ex dumped her or since she dumped her ex or whatever. A woman that experiences that now has a problem. And the problem is she's not used to having a guy make her feel the butterflies. She's used to giving butterflies, but not feeling the butterflies. So now she's like, oh crap, I don't want to lose this guy. And now what happens is she becomes the version of all those guys that she dated that can't help themselves but to want to text and call. But the difference is when we do it, it comes off as too much pressure, trying to force her, not going with the flow, and she's not interested. But when it happens to them, they're in this thing of like, okay, so I really, really like him. I don't want to text or call him all the time, but I really want to see him. And so what will happen is they might fight themselves for a little bit, but a woman that has like even a 70 or 80% interest in you is not going to be able to help herself, but to send you some kind of message just as a reminder that she's out there. So this is why I tell you guys, if you take a woman on a really great date, you need to wait a minimum of 4 or 5 days before you hit her up for the next date, because we're waiting to see if she's going to initiate any kind of texting with you. And this isn't like, for the women watching this, this isn't the text where like we're waiting for women to be like, oh, I want to go on another date with you. Guys, don't expect that, okay? But expect that if she sends you any kind of text, it is an indicator to her, to you, from her, that she's interested and that she hopes you ask her out again. So let's say you're waiting that 4 or 5 days after that first date, right? Date 2 or 3, she might hit you up. Hey, just checking to see how your day was. Or she might send you like emoji saying, hi, stranger. It's going to be very, very lightweight. And as guys, we're literal. So we might just think, oh, she's just saying hi. She's not just saying hi. What she's doing is she's basically saying to you, hey, I'm out here. I hope that you're going to ask me out again. And so when she initiated text, this is now your signal as the guy to take back the lead and say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I found this great restaurant. Wanted to see if you wanted to go. Boom. Now you're back. You're taking the lead of the conversation and you're doing the asking out, but she's initiating. And there's a difference between initiating a conversation and leading a conversation. Her initiating the conversation is her saying, hey, I'm available for chat, but hopefully for another date. And then you taking the lead is saying, I got your initiation. You know what? We're going out. And that's how that works. So it doesn't matter if a woman's been through the most horriblest of experiences dating. It usually doesn't typically matter if she's like, you know what, from now on, the guy's got to text me or call me first before I do anything, blah, 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 blah. When women are highly interested, all those rules go out the window, guys. I'm telling you, I have yet to get into a relationship with a woman that wasn't the result of me being patient and her initiating our texting conversations. And that's because when women are highly interested, they can't help but reach out. Most of you guys that are dating and having problems haven't gotten to that stage because you're so eager when you meet a girl. And for us, almost any woman we meet, we're like, I can make this work out. So we automatically start giving too much of ourselves and start texting too much. And it is to our detriment, okay? Remember, this woman, if it doesn't work out, there are others out there. So you have to treat this woman. You need to start treating women the same way they typically treat us, which is that when you go out on a date with them, it's just for research. It's just to see if maybe there's something there. And then at the end of that first date, you can say, okay, that felt pretty good. Let me go home and analyze this. And I talk about this extensively, by the way, in my Introvert Dating Success Coaching Program, where I have a whole A through Z approach on how to meet, greet, attract, date, land, and keep the woman of your dreams. And I talk about how when you go on those first dates, it goes beyond just you going on a first date and having a good time. It goes into analyzing specific behaviors during the date that'll give you a better read of where she's at. And then it also goes to, and then being patient and waiting between dates for her to see if she's going to initiate contact. All right. Now, if after 4 or 5 days she doesn't initiate, it doesn't mean that she's structured or that she's not interested. It could just be she just grew up like, okay, if the guy wants to ask me out again, that happens. And so I'll just wait to say yes to the date when he hits me up. But even then, that's you're initiating with the intent of asking her out. There is not a need, for the most part, to conversate with women via text between dates. Now, obviously, once you get into a relationship, then those rules start to change a bit. But in the attraction process, her not knowing when you're going to contact or if you're interested or whatever is going to be very, very beneficial to you, in part because there's going to be a point in time when if she wants to get that certainty, she's going to reach out to you. All right. So this is why it's better for the guy to lead in the interaction in terms of asking for the date. But in terms of her, it's better for her to initiate as a reminder to you that she's still out there and that she still wants you. All right. So hopefully, guys, or lady that left this comment, this answered your question. And yes, I understand all about masculine and feminine energy. You as the woman coming to him and just giving a little hello or hi or a sweet little cat face or whatever like that, that is feminine energy through text. Masculine energy through text is, hey, I got your message, and you know what? I want to take you on another date. It's us leading towards a date. So that's the difference. So hopefully this gives a better understanding of what I'm talking about. All right. So now let's get into the main crux of the show. If you guys have any questions for me in general, you can leave them in the comment section, and I will answer them after I go through this portion of the show. So today, guys, I want to talk to you about the dating app prompt that is the most pointless prompt that dating companies have decided to put on these apps, right? And I'm going to show it to you right here. Let's put this in the stream here. All right. So this right here, I forgot to put pointless there. Hold on a second. All right. So I forgot to put pointless there. But anyway, so this right here is what dating app companies have now decided to put in the various dating app things for people to fill out. Hold on for a second. I got to get some water. I forgot to get my cup of water here. Hold on a second. It's so hot in California these days. Thank God. It was cloudy for a long ass time. I did not like that. Cloudy California is not a fun California to go to. So anyway, so let me rewind this back because I edit these for later videos. So today we're talking about the most pointless dating app prompt that is on these various dating apps that I can't stand that they've put on here. And it is the "what are you looking for" prompt. So let's take a look at this right here. Let's add to the stream. All right. So apps like Tinder, Hinge, even your Plenty of Fishes, your OkCupids, most of them nowadays have this app, this prompt in the thing. And it's this prompt that's talking about, what are you looking for? So you're going through the dating app, you're filling it out, and then you get to this prompt. Hey, tell others on this dating app what you're looking for. And these are usually the things that they have as options, right? They have, right now, I'm looking for a long-term partner, or I'm looking for a short-term or long-term, but I'm open to short-term, or I'm looking for short-term, but I'm open to long, or I'm looking for short-term fun, or I'm just looking for new friends, or I'm still trying to figure it out, right? And you can see over here, like on this one right here, it says on the Hinge app, it says this guy filled out. This is actually one of the apps that I saw on one of the profiles I saw on Reddit. This guy filled out, he's looking for long-term, but he's open to short. And then this one in the middle, what connections are you looking for? This person checked off new friends, short-term dating, and long-term dating. And so, yeah, these are, when you go on the dating apps, these are what they have available to choose from. And when I tell you, this is easily the most pointless prompt to have ever graced the screens of dating apps. It is absolutely moronic that not only do they have these as options, but that people then actually fill them out, you know? And I'm going to go over today why that is. But generally, well, I'm going to go into the 5 reasons why it's pointless. But I want to first talk about why it is that guys feel the need to fill this part of the dating app out in the first place, right? So let me put this back on the screen 1 second. Hold on a second here. So when guys see this, right, they think, as logical guys, we think, you know what? This is actually a great prompt because I'm on these dating apps and women may not know what kind of guy I am. They might not know if I'm just looking to have a short-term fling, or they might think that I'm a short-term guy, but I'm actually a long-term relationship guy. And how else are they going to know? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fill out one of these. That way, they're going to know right away what kind of guy I am. And the reason that we do this is because we don't want to scare a woman away by thinking we're either too available or we're too eager for a relationship. And so our logical guy brains think if I just tell women what I'm looking for in a relationship, then they'll swipe on my profile and she'll see I'm looking for a long-term relationship. And if she's also looking for a long-term relationship, then boom, we can match up knowing that we're going into this for the long haul. Or if she's looking for a short-term relationship, I could put I'm open for a short term, but open to long term. That way she'll know that if she wants a short term, I'm cool with that. But if she changes her mind, I'm also ready for a long-term relationship. And so I talked in the show time and time again about how, as logical, as analytically logical that guys think that we are, our logical brains can actually get us in trouble. Because here's the thing. You cannot logically think that if you just tell a woman that you're into, for example, a long-term relationship, and she's into a long-term relationship, that if you two match up, you're going to go long-term with each other. Same thing with short-term. You might be thinking, I'm saying short-term, and then she's saying short-term, so we're going to be good. We'll hook up for like 2 or 3 months, and then I'll be out of here. And you hook up, you connect with her, you hook up, and then at the month 3, you're ready to jump out of the plane, and she's like, but I really like you now, and I want you long-term. And you're thinking logically, but we logically both said short-term, so we should both understand this is only a short-term thing, blah, 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 blah. And so this is why this is one of the most pointless prompts on a dating app. And I'm going to dive deeper into this, but suffice to say is that we're thinking that we're going on the women's agenda. We're thinking, okay, in order to not scare any women off, I'm going to put this thing in my dating profile app. Or we think, well, in order to get exactly what I want and not play any games, because, guys think that women don't play games. Spoiler alert, they play them, they like them, and they get with guys that play them also. But that's a whole different show altogether. But anyway, yeah, we think that by saying this stuff logically, that women are going to come out the woodwork and say, oh, he wants what I want in terms of the same time length thing and so blah, blah, blah. And that's the only reason we do it. We're doing it because we're trying to appease the maximum number of women out there that are going to see our profile in hopes that enough of them are going to read this prompt that we put up there and think that it matches with what they have so we can get with the most number possible. And that's complete bullcrap. Like, bottom line, when I was doing dating app dating, I would never fill that out because I understood the logical fallacy, which is that ultimately you cannot figure out early on that you want something with somebody in a certain length of time until you spend time with them. And we'll get into the reasons now why, because there's plenty of reasons why this isn't going to work. So we'll go into 5 reasons why the what I'm looking for prompt is ultimately pointless and that you should not fill it out. So the first reason why this what I'm looking for prompt is pointless is because ultimately a woman's decision about how long they're going to date you is based on feelings and her experience with you. It is not a defined choice, meaning the majority of women, when they're on a dating app, are not going on there assuming that they already know what they want with guys that they've never met. Like, even if women say on there, oh, I'm looking for a short term, the reality is that she doesn't actually know what she's looking for because she's not basing that on anybody. Like, she's saying, I want a short term to nobody. Now, if she meets up with you and has a good time, and over the course of a few weeks, you build a good rapport, you have some good hookups, well, now how she feels about you is going to change. But the thing is that she doesn't go into the dating app having it as a defined thing. Like, we think in terms of guy logic that once I make a decision about what I want, that's it. It's solid. It's set in stone. If I say I want a long term, that's all I ever from any girl that I date ever on this dating app. And women just aren't like that. Women are like, women's basic standing point always is, we'll see. How long do you think this is going to last when you get on the dating app? Yeah, we'll see. What does it depend on? Well, I got to see the guy, meet him and talk to him, blah, blah, blah. So we'll see. And when you go into this thinking that your prompt actually means something, you are gravely mistaken because you're not taking into account the fact that women are filling this out because they have to, but they don't actually know what they want specifically with anybody because they haven't gone out with them yet. So this is a bad thing on their part because they're going to your profile and you're saying, well, I'm definitively wanting a long term. And they're thinking, well, I kind of want to date the guy, but I don't know if I want a long term with him because I haven't met him yet. She has to meet you first before she can make that decision. The second reason the what I'm looking for prompt is pointless for guys to fill out on these dating apps is because it doesn't take into account the complexities of human interaction and how it evolves as we get to know someone. The perfect example of this is I saw this movie on Netflix called The Longest Third Date Ever. It's a story of this couple. It's a documentary. So the short version is they met on a dating app. They went on 2 dates, had a good time. The third date, the guy's like, hey, let's go to I think it's like Costa Rica or Puerto Rico for the weekend. And she says, sure. And then COVID happens and they get stuck there together for like 3 months, right? And so as the story's progressing, she's like spending time with them and they're having a good time together. Not one time did he ever bring up being in a relationship? Meanwhile, on screen, on her interviews here going like, well, I kind of like him. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't want this to have to be a thing just because we're together all the time. Well, maybe I do like him. Like she's waffling back and forth the entire time. And then at the end of the doc, she's like, yeah, I want to go with you. But when she met this guy, she just got out of a relationship and she was like, I just want to go on a fling with whoever. So in other words, if she had been filling out a dating app, you would have seen on her profile, I'm looking for short term. But what happened is that as she got to know him, they spend time together. She's realizing what a great guy he is. She's hearing stories from his life. This starts to put in motion the sea of change in her feelings for him. And that's how most women date. They meet you from a dating app, right? You asking for a date at some point, and they're like, all right, let's just give this guy a shot and see what's what. And then date after date, she's making different decisions about you. Oh, he said something really funny on this date. Oh, he was kind and caring to me. Oh, he took me on this place and we had a great time. Oh, wow, this hookup was fantastic. Oh my God. And like it builds to where she's able to make a fuller decision because again, human interactions are ever changing and they help to better dictate and steer the ship as to where things are going to go. On a dating app, if you're just reading from her, I want a short term, or she's reading from you, I want a short term, but open and all this and that, it's not taking into account that humans are more complex than that. Even you guy, you might think to yourself, I just want a short term fling. And then you meet, perchance, the girl of your dreams, and she's everything you ever wanted. And she just happened to have on her profile that she just wanted a short-term relationship. Would you now be mad if, as you got to know each other, she suddenly said, oh, it's been great getting to know you. I think you're a wonderful guy. I think we could have a life together. But I said short-term, so I'm out. And so that's why, again, you can't really rely on these prompts to be able to help you tell a full story about what you're actually looking for. The third reason that the what I'm looking for prompt is pointless is because it limits the potential for the other person to change their mind. Exactly. If she sees you on there and she's thinking, oh, he's saying he wants a short-termer, and then you look at her and you're like, oh, she says she wants long-term. Well, I guess I can't see her because mine says short-term and her says long-term. It doesn't take into account that people very much change their minds. A woman that could be thinking of you as a short-term thing could decide, oh my God, this guy's actually great for long-term. Like, I was just trying to get a hookup for him, but like, he wants 3 kids. I want 3 kids. He wants to live in the Bahamas. I want to live in the Bahamas. He's politically this way. I'm politically this way. Like, oh my God, I didn't know just based on the dating app that we'd have all this stuff in common. But now that I spent time with him, I do. But she might feel as though, but I'm not going to be able to change his mind later. So there's no point. And so when you fill that out, you're thinking, again, you're trying to be as honest as possible, but you're not leaving room. In her head, you're not leaving room for, but what if things change later? What if I don't want to do short-term with this guy, even though he's saying he wants short-term? What if I want long-term? Or he's saying he wants long-term. I'm saying I want short-term. What if I change my mind? Is it going to look like I'm a liar or a hypocrite if I change my mind later? So let me not even hook up with this guy. And so you miss out because these prompts don't take into account the fact that humans are always changing their minds about stuff. And this goes back to number 2. Human interactions are complex. And as you guys spend more time together, either of you could change your mind into wanting something more. But these prompts don't give the indication that that's the thing. The fourth reason that the what I'm looking for prompt is pointless is because you are limiting yourself and potentially chasing away women who would have said yes, but didn't match your prompt. So you're a guy saying, I just want a short-term fling or some short-term fun. And then again, your dream girl comes across your page and she looks at it and everything on there looks great. And then she sees the part that says you're only wanting short-term. And she's thinking, oh man, I really want a long-term thing, or I want something that's going to be like at least leading towards potentially being long-term. But he doesn't even say that on this app. You know what? I really want to. No, girl, you did this last time. The last guy that you dated that said he wanted a long-term, and then blah, blah. So she changes her mind and she doesn't swipe on you. And so you're swiping right thinking she'd be perfect. Even though her said long-term, you're like, I could still make that work because I could also be open to long-term, but your prompt doesn't say that. Or you're a guy that's saying you're long-term, and then the woman has a short-term prompt. She's like, but again, I don't know if I want to be long-term with him yet. Like, I'd be willing to go and try to find it out, but no. You got guys are saying what they mean. So if he's saying he wants a long-term and you're saying you want short-term right now, then he's not leaving room for any evolution to happen. So I got to swipe off of this guy. And you lose out on another girl. Versus if you said nothing there, then a woman would say, because I've seen this happen, where it's like, well, he didn't say in his dating profile if he was looking for a short-term relationship or a long-term. I guess the only way I'll know is if I go on a date with him. So then that guy gets the date because he didn't say anything. All right. And that goes to the idea that women's moods and feelings are ever flowing and fluid, and they want to be able to make that decision based on interactions and how that interaction made them feel. On a dating app, aside from like messaging back and forth, there's not enough interaction there to really help a woman judge ultimately where she could see this thing going. And then even on those first few dates, she's not going to really know for sure where she wants this to go until date 2 or 3 when she solidified her feelings. So even then, guys don't tend to give a lot of grace because guys are like, we're very quick to make decisions. So we think after 1 or 2 dates, we've already decided. Why hasn't she decided? And we start trying to push for, well, do you like me now? Where are we at? What are your feelings? And it makes them feel pressured and they don't want to choose us. But this also goes back to the dating apps where, again, you can't assume she's got that all figured out based on just these little prompts here. So if you leave it blank, she doesn't know. Now it's part of her dating process to figure out, A, if you could be a long-term, and then B, to see if she can make you into that guy that wants to be with her long-term, all right? And then the 5th reason that the What I'm Looking For app is pointless, ultimately, is that people will lie based on societal expectations. So the number of women on dating apps that are going to probably say they want a short-term is pretty slim. And that's because in society, women are looked at as the ones that want to have relationships. And so the majority of them are going to probably put they want a long-term relationship. But let's say there is a woman out there that wants just a short-term, right? But you come along and you say you want a long-term relationship. So you find another woman on there that says she also wants a long-term relationship. You're like, yes, I found her. And you swipe and you go on a couple of dates with her. And then after like a month and a half, she wants to jump ship. And you're like, what's going on? And then she tells you, well, actually, I was just looking for like a really short, good time, but I didn't want to give you the impression, because women are all about appearances and not looking bad in society. So you could have women that are telling you one thing on the prompt that actually want the complete opposite. And they're going to feel like it's totally justified because I just needed to be able to get a date. And whether I had to say I wanted a short-term or long-term, I was going to do what I had to do, even if later on I was going to explain to the guy that I wanted the opposite. Now, is that fair? I don't think it is at all, but it happens. And so you're trying to, because as guys, we're like, the words that we're reading are the words that they mean. So you're reading her prompt saying she wants a short-term or long-term, and then you're going to get mad later when it's the opposite. But the reality is that if the prompt hadn't been there in the first place, there'd be no lie or truth or whatever. It'd just be, I dated this person and got to find out enough about them until either they or I decided that it's either going to work out or not work out. And I got news for you. That's how dating ultimately should work, is that nobody goes into a date with somebody automatically knowing if they want a short-term or long-term. Even you guys that think, well, I just broke up with somebody and I don't want something super serious, I just want a short-term thing. I've had messages from so many guys that have said the following: I was just trying to go on a dating app for a little bit of fun. We had a few hookups and it was like no big deal. And then one day she didn't answer me back right away. And I got butthurt and told her that she should be responding to me more, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, but you didn't say you want a relationship. Oh, wait, you did, but you were lying to yourself. Because most dudes, if they have a few good hookups and a couple of times where they go on a date where the woman's smiling at them and showing her cleavage off and all this other stuff, that, yeah, it's very easy for us to go from, I just wanted this to be a hookup, but now after a couple of good times, I decided, you know what? She has potential. And so you have to leave room for that. But leaving an answer to the what I'm looking for prompt doesn't make women read from you that you are open to a plethora of possibilities. Even if you say one that's like, you know, I want a short term, but I'm open to long, or vice versa, that's still not one, it's not an answer that's going to actually give a full picture of what your experience is going to actually be when you're dating her. But also, it doesn't allow her to think that there's any wiggle room still, because let's say she's open to short term, say she's looking for short term, but is open to long. And then she goes out with you, and after a few flings, she's like, I don't want to do this person long term. Well, now you're butthurt because, but your thing said you're open to long and I want long. You said you want long. But yeah, but she just didn't feel it, guy. And so, but again, that goes back to, that's how dating already is anyway. And I think when you fill in these dating app prompts about what you're looking for, it really doesn't take into account a lot of things, and it severely limits, and doesn't take into account how human interactions actually work on a grand scale for dating, because you always have to leave room for the woman can either decide to stay or go. You saying you're open to a long-term relationship might sound like a positive, but what about the woman that's like, I went on 3 dates with them, I'm not interested, and now I want to leave. Now you're thinking, she lied to me. She said she wanted a long-term, but ours was very, very short. And you're thinking because she was lying to you about her intentions, when really it was, again, based on the interaction she had with you and how she felt about them, and then looking at those interactions and seeing if they could go long-term and realizing that for her, they would not. All right. So ultimately, I say, don't fill out that prompt. Save yourself the trouble, save yourself some typing, and just don't answer that altogether. All right. So those are my 2 cents on that particular prompt. I just hate seeing that prompt. Every Hinge app profile I review on Reddit has that filled out. And sometimes you'll see guys too, let's say like, they'll fill out like, open, it's a long-term relationship, open or short. And then they have a further paragraph. Well, it's really all about just, I want to meet up and see what's what and get blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's dating. So there's no need to have to overemphasize that with a dating app prompt. Anyway, hey Chelsea, I'm gonna be watching your show. So I'm doing mine at 3:30 instead of 5 o'clock, but I will be checking into your show. For those of you who don't know, this lady Chelsea, she has a show called Chelsea's Live Line. It comes on at 5 o'clock Eastern. Pacific Standard, 5 Pacific, 8 East. Anyway, she does a great show. So check her out at 5 after this. Anyway, so let's go into some more comments here. So I had a longer comment that I really wanted to get into, right? So this guy was engaged to this woman. A bunch of family stuff happened, and he's trying to figure out how to get her back. And I want to go over this in detail in full because it's pretty lengthy, but I want to kind of stop and start at points and really point out these are examples of in the course of your dating journey or in your relationship journey, there's going to be things that if you're not aware of could turn her off, are going to be things that you could ultimately end up losing out on with this woman. All right. And so we'll go ahead and get into his story. Let me take my drink of water real quick here. So this guy was in a long-term relationship, right? I gotta stop doing that. Okay. All right. So let's get into this guy's situation. He says he was in a 3-year relationship, 2 of which he was engaged. He says she is dismissive avoidant and I was anxious. She was the one who seduced me into the relationship. Okay, first of all, that's great that she was doing all the things to interest you, but recognize in all dating situations, you had a choice. So you ultimately chose to let this woman do the things she needed to do to seduce you. I think I say it because I don't like people that don't take responsibility for themselves and their thoughts and their actions. Like a woman, ultimately, as much as we like to think, oh, she tricked me into a relationship, it's ultimately your decision to be in the relationship. So great if that happened, but like, just don't put it all on her. Anyway, throughout the years until the last day we were together, she loved me so much. Remember I said this. He's saying she loved me so much. She made me feel good all the time and took care of me, all right? Her family and friends knew how much she loved me, and some of them even felt jealous in a good way. I don't know how you're jealous in a good way, but okay. So then he says, during those 3 years, she asked to break up 5 or 6 times, always for minor faults on my part. These were faults that wouldn't normally lead to a breakup. So for starters, notice he said, like, for 3 years, she loved him so much, right? But then he says that she asked to break up 5 or 6 times, right? So that means that, contrary to what he said, because again, I'm being literal here, that things weren't always hunky-dory all the time, right? But more to the point, I want to point out this part here. He says, the breakups were always for minor faults on my part. These were faults that wouldn't normally lead to a breakup. And I talked about this on the show before, about how a lot of times a guy's job, when a woman comes to us with a problem, a guy's job is to minimize the problem so it doesn't seem like such a big deal. And that can be a very positive thing when, say, like she has a thing happening at work and she's thinking the world's about to blow up, and you come in and say, hey, babe, you know what? Let's just shrink this down and really look at it. In the grand scheme of things, this is fixable. This is easily solved. It's not a big deal, right? But the problem is guys also do that when women are coming to them involving problems about them, right? So she might come to you and say, for example, like, hey, so I have this issue with you. Like, I noticed that, for example, big one, you're on IG and you're following other models and liking their pictures, right? Like, to me, I wish you would stop that. Now, the guy might hear that and say, that's not really a big deal. I'm not getting with those girls, and I just like the way they look aesthetically, so this is no big deal, right? And so guys will very much throw off like, oh, he said here, for minor faults on my part. I don't know what those faults were. I wasn't there, so I can't say every single thing that she brought up was like a big or small deal. But I can tell you as a guy that we're very quick to make everything women bring to us a not so big a deal. But the problem is, if she's coming to you asking for a breakup, that means it was either happening enough times to where it got to be a big deal, or that it was a big deal to her. You weren't taking it seriously. And now the only way she knows how to remedy that is to threaten you by leaving. All right. Either way, it's not a good look. So guys in general just need to do a better job of understanding when women come to you with problems, Even if on a grand scale, it doesn't seem like a big deal to us, it could very well be a bigger deal to her. And it at least is worth talking about and analyzing, something that might not be a big deal to you, a huge deal to her. And just like there's going to be times that you bring stuff to her that you think is a big deal, she's going to be like, how's this a big deal? You wouldn't want your stuff brushed aside either. Just saying. So anyway, he says, every time she asked for a breakup, we talked it out, continued together, and she immediately felt happy. But the thing is, just because you squash it in that moment, did the thing that she was complaining about come up again later? Because if it did, then it wasn't actually squished, which means it just actually built up over time. He says, she treated me with so much love. I made changes to address the things that bothered her since our last conflict, and she admitted that I changed for the better, and she was happy. However, I was the one who made most of the changes to be good for her, while she only made a few of me. In the last couple of months, I became upset with some of her behaviors, especially since we were supposed to marry in August, and I was busy and depressed with setting up our home and dealing with the cost. She told me that she was fed up because I didn't speak to her much and hadn't visited her in 4 months. So based on that, I can't tell if that means that this is a long distance relationship. Like if they've been together for 3 years and he hasn't visited her in 4 months. If they're in the same town, that wouldn't be an issue. If she was in town and he wasn't visiting her on a regular basis, I'd be concerned because it's like, but she's like down the street. She's 20 minutes away. How are you not seeing her? Now, if it's, state distance wise or whatever, that's a different story. Because then I'd go into the mantra of like long distance relationships are ultimately hard. But if you guys are getting married, she should ideally already be living near you as proof that you guys are going to be together. If that's not happening, then I have questions about that. So, but either way, just like I said, if she's bringing up situations that are bugging her about you and you're fixing them, and then you're doing the same for her and she's not fixing them, then that is a problem. And I know there's a mantra sometimes of like, guys are the ones that are at fault and we're dogs and we need to be the ones that change for women. But if she's realistically doing things that in a reasonable sense are things that could be detrimental to your feelings for her or the relationship, and you're asking her to change them and she's not, then I got news for you, guy. That doesn't change just because you get a ring on your finger. If she's not willing to listen to you now and make certain changes that are reasonable changes, and you got to decide for yourself what reasonable is, then don't think that that's going to change just because you guys get married. The reality is she's going to be the same way now that she is when you get married. So if she's reacting to you now and your requests by not trying to implement them, then I'd say this might be a mismatch. I'm not going to tell you what you should do about that. I would say if that were me, I'd be stiffing that out early and be like, look, babe, like, I don't think this is balanced. I think that I've made some changes, and I don't think I'm asking too much of you to do these certain things here. Are those things that you're willing to change? If she says no, then your response is, okay, let's just keep things the way they are, and let's just forego the marriage for now and just keep things the way they are. Because it's better to do that than to get trapped under paperwork, whereby if you don't like it, you got to get out of it by legal ways, and that costs a lot of money. And I don't know about you. I don't want to spend a lot of money getting divorced with somebody that I knew was going to be a problem in the first place. Just me. Anyway, he says, she told me she was fed up. Okay. We also had some minor arguments about our house. Pause. Like I said, minor arguments. Trust me, dude. They were major arguments. You just weren't taking them as such. In my opinion, all of this was minor, but she always made a big deal out of it. Yeah. Because again, guys are very good at minimizing problems, but that doesn't mean that they aren't big deals. And there's two of you there. So guess what, guy? In a relationship, her big deals become your big deals. And if you're not addressing them as such, she's going to feel like you're not listening, that you're pushing her to the side, that her opinion to you does not matter. And it's going to cause her to feel like less than. And then when that's happening, then you come along and say, hey, babe, I need you to change this thing. And she's thinking, but why would I change that? Everything I bring to him, it doesn't seem like a big deal to him when I bring up my things that I have issues with. So why would I listen to his stuff? So it becomes this back and forth of you don't feel heard, and then you don't want to listen to her stuff, and then she doesn't feel heard, so she's not listening to your stuff. So both of you guys are doing some very, very bad listening, in my opinion. Continuing, he says, she asked me to break up and told me to call her brother to collect my belongings. I agreed and called him immediately at 5 a.m. He told me that he didn't know about the situation and asked for some time to find out what happened from her. Okay, here we go. So now we're getting into trying to involve family members in personal situations. This, more often than not, can be a very bad thing. Now, obviously, if you're about to marry somebody, you want each other's families to get along, and you want to ideally be able to go to her family about stuff and vice versa. But there are some things that are going to be either too personal or are going to get misinterpreted by people that aren't directly in the situation, and it can cause turmoil and trouble later, as you will soon see from this guy. So he says, the next day, he called me and said that he and their family didn't want the relationship to end. He asked if I wanted to continue, and I said yes, but only if she wanted to as well. We talked about what happened, and I told him that she needs to see a psychiatrist since I failed to help her heal. And this is why I tell you guys, it is not your job to change a woman. It's not your job to get her over her personal trauma. That is ultimately her job to do. You want to get into a relationship with somebody that's already dealt with those various things. But also understand, too, that realistically, like, there may be some issues that she brought up that are legitimate issues that, again, him saying she needs to go to a psychiatrist could be him pushing her concerns to the side when they could actually be legitimate things that she's bringing up. So I say this because so many guys are like, oh, she must be bipolar because she doesn't do this, and that, or she said this thing. And not every time a woman comes to you with a situation doesn't mean that she has something wrong with her. Sometimes it really is. There are some issues coming up that you have blinders to that as your partner, she's trying to bring up because she loves you and she wants it to succeed and she doesn't want to lose feelings for you. We can't take all those suggestions as she's crazy, she's bipolar, oh my gosh, she doesn't know. Like, that's not fair to women in general. Anyway, he says she sent her best friend to talk to me and I told her the same things, which again were she needs to see a psychiatrist since I failed to help her heal. The next day, she called me and said that she didn't want to break up. She wanted to be a better person for me and not push me away with her behavior. However, on the same day, she called me again and said that she just found out about what I had told her brother and her friend, and she didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. I called her brother and asked him what happened. He said that he got mad at her because of how she treated me and told her that she needed a psychiatrist, according to me, which made her angry. So guys, what can we learn from this little segment right here? Well, regardless of how you're feeling about your current girlfriend, your ex, or whatever, in terms of talking to her friends and family, you never want anything to get back to her that you said that was negative. I'll give you a quick story. I was engaged to a girl many, many years ago, and I broke the engagement off. Loved your family to death, but obviously once you break up, you can't hang out with them anymore, right? So like 6 months later, I was doing Uber driving, and I got a thing on my phone to pick somebody up. And so I go to pick this person up, and it turned out to be her cousin, who I had been really gotten to be close friends with in the course of the relationship, right? So I'm like, oh my God, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Blah, 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 blah. So she proceeds to spill all this tea about all the stuff that my ex had been going through since we broke up, about various things that I won't get into here. And so, yeah. And so the whole time that's happening, my initial first go-to was like, oh yeah, she was just blah, 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 blah. And then someone just like, you know what? On the off chance anything I said ever gets back to her and we ever happen to meet up again and want to get back together, I don't need this to be a thing that she heard that I said about her. And so I kept it very cordial, very nice. Oh, hope she's doing better. Hopefully she's doing good now, or whatever, this and that. And then a few days later, this cousin of hers, this friend of mine, she sent me an email saying, oh my God, she was this and that. She was doing so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. And I wrote her back and said, hey, you know what? I had a great time in the relationship. I'm mad it didn't work. I'm sad it didn't work out, but it is for the best. And I hope she's doing absolutely great. Because I knew I don't need that negativity out there. To this day, when people ask me about any exes that I've had, I don't try to badmouth any of them. I don't say they're bad people. At best, I'll say, you know what, for whatever reason, we had some situations pop up that didn't work out, or we didn't agree on these certain things anymore. I still think they're a great person, or just ultimately it wasn't going to go long term. And that's how I keep it, because I don't think, that I always think that even if I'm the person that's saying that we broke up or I broke it off or whatever, I don't ever think I was a perfect angel. I think that there were things I did in the relationships that I could have done better. So I don't feel the need to put all the badness of the relationship on that other person. But more importantly is that I don't need people out there thinking that I badmouth people. And I don't need people out there thinking that, when I date girls and it doesn't work out, that I'm going to, suddenly say all these horrible stuff about them, because you never know who it's going to get back to. Hey, for all I know, I could have said some bad stuff, and then fast forward to I'm trying to get a video job, and I go to the head of the company, and they're about to hire me, and then the head of the company finds out that I dated this girl and talked bad about her, and now I lose out on that job. Like, you never know where, who is, or what's going to hear these things and how it's going to affect you as a result. So I just keep it a blanket policy to not talk too badly about exes in general, even on this show. At best, I'll say it didn't work out for X, Y, and Z, but I won't ever say, and then they were a horrible person as a result. Like, I just don't fundamentally believe that, you know? But this guy's learning. He said some bad stuff directly to family members who he wanted to talk to her and didn't think that him saying things like she needs a psychiatrist would come up. Guys, always assume what's going to get back to her. Always assume that whatever you say about a woman that you're trying to get back with to somebody else is going to get back to them, and keep it as 100% cordial as you possibly can, all right? Because you want her to be like, and then I talked to my friend and he said, or my cousin or whatever, and he was just like, he really missed you and he really thinks highly of you and he wished he could work out and blah, 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 blah. You don't want, you said I need a psychiatrist. You said I was crazy. Like, that's not going to win you any points in the get back with her category. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so she called her brother, blah, 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 been angry. The following week, her father contacted me to collect my belongings, and I did so. All things ended. I contacted her mother and her brother, and they wanted to fix things, but she sent a message to my mother expressing her sadness because I had contacted her family, and she felt overwhelmed. Yeah, again, this is why you want to keep it one-on-one personal and not try to get others involved, because now you figure she's got her mom, her brother, other various family members on her trying to force her to get back with you. And what do I tell you guys time and time again? Women that feel forced into having to be with you are not going to want to make the choice to be with you, all right? You want to make that stuff come up as natural as possible and make her feel as though it's as much of her choice to do that as possible. You bringing family members in from both sides, trying to contact her all at once to try to get back with you, that's not going to make her want to get the results that you want. I'm sorry, it's just not. So anyway, he says, so he cut off contact and entered a no contact phase for a month. So, hold on a second, So this guy, he does the mistake most guys do, right? Because guys hear the words no contact and think, okay, no contact means I don't contact her for a certain period of time and then I reach out. And what I want you to understand is that no contact means no contact ever until she decides to reach out to you, because we want her to have enough time away to realize that you're not trying to force her or chase her down, and that ultimately you're leaving it up to her to decide if she wants to come back to you. That's what we want. What we don't want is you say, I'm going to give her a month. That'll be enough time for her, because now you're dictating how much time is good for her to be in no contact with you. And when that happens, it's still saying, I'm not giving you a choice and when you hear from me. And that's going to make her feel even more disrespected. I say this because he says, I cut off all contact and entered a no contact phase for a month. Then I sent her a message after that month, blaming her for some of the bad things she said to me about my mom. And then I entered no contact again. Dude, like, you should have just stayed in no contact. She doesn't care. She does not care ultimately about, like, and when you contact her, she definitely doesn't want to feel blamed for some stuff. Like, she's already thinking that, man, this guy's hitting up my family and his family to try to get back at me, and it feels like too much. So I'm going to try to step away for a bit. And then you come back with, and I'm blaming you, because does that give the energy of somebody that she's going to want to get back with? It does not. So then he says, after that, I entered another no contact period for 2 months. She kept blocking me on everything and saying bad things about me on social media, because again, she's not trying to talk to you, which my family saw and told me about. She acted like a mad, unstable person. I think it was because she loved me so much and breaking up was hard for her. Well, you're saying she's acting like a mad and unstable person, but what do you look like to her? Have you thought about what do your actions look like to her? So your actions have been, she broke up with me, so I decided to reach out to her family members without her knowing about it and having them try to go to her to convince her to connect with me again, and also talk to my parents about it to try to contact her. And then after a month, this guy sends me this randomly crazy thing saying how, he's blaming me for these bad things and blah, 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 blah. Which one of those people look more unstable? To her, you guy are the unstable person in this situation, because you are the one that keeps reaching out to her in spite of the fact that she's clearly shown that she's no longer interested. And so you could say that she looks like a mad person and unstable, but yeah, you're making her that way because you keep trying to send her stuff. And then she's going on social media saying, this dude won't leave me the freak alone. Why won't he leave me alone? And that is an activity and action that can make women start to act a little unstable because you are doing things that indicate that you are also unstable and you're encroaching upon her space when she doesn't want you to. She doesn't want you to contact her. She doesn't want to hear from you. She doesn't want to talk about it. If she comes to that conclusion that she wants to, women have their own minds. They know, she knows what your number is. She knows how to reach out when it's her time. You're doing it on your time, which is making unfair to her, which is why you're losing out. Continuing, he says, after 2 months, I made rapid changes in my behavior, and I think I changed from being anxious to a more secure person. I believe I am now better equipped to handle the challenges in our relationship with greater calmness. I sent her a message. Again, you're still sending messages that she has not asked you to send because she's not trying to hear from you. Anyway, he said, I sent her a message asking her to be more decent and to stop speaking ill of me. So you went through all these changes that you allegedly made, and then you're still reaching out to her saying, hey, I made these changes, but you need to stop doing blah, 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 blah. You still look like an unstable person. So anyway, I also shared information about my personal growth and expressed my readiness to work on our issues together. I emphasized the need for both of us to improve. So, dude, you're coming to her basically saying, hey, you know what? I've changed, but you still got a lot to work on if we're going to make this work. She's been out for 3 months now, dude. She's not thinking about you. She's not trying to get with you. And you're honestly looking like a piece of work. You're looking like a piece of work that complains about every little thing, but then doesn't want to take her complaints seriously when she brings them to you. And after 3 years, she got tired of it and dumped you. And now you're the ex that's trying to get her back. And you're making her feel unstable because you're being unstable by trying to get with her and not being respectful of the fact that she's not talking to you. Hey, I got news for you. If a woman's going to come back into your life, sometimes it might be a month, but sometimes it could be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. Regardless of how long it takes her, she will be the one that lets you know when she's comfortable for those conversations. If she's not ready for it, or if she's never ready for it, you need to stay permanently in no contact at this point because it's not fair to her. If she's not trying to talk to you, you're not doing any favors. If she wants to talk to you, she wants to be able to feel like talking to you of her own accord, which you're also not doing. So in both instances, you are not being a fair person to her. Continuing, he says, however, since she doesn't seem interested in reconciling, I respect her decision and will move forward with my life. She blocked me after that, and it has been a month since. Yeah, because she's done. She wasn't like bullcrapping you when she said she was out of here and that she felt that your actions and your words were very disrespectful because they were. So he says, now what can I do to win her back? Nothing. Some additional information that might help you understand the situation better is that her family loves me a lot. There was a time when she even felt jealous of her own mother because she thought I took her away from her to be like a mother to me. Throughout the relationship, she loved me more than anyone has ever loved another person. She was forgiving and helped heal some of my wounds. We were the best couple ever during those 3 years and felt completely at ease with each other. I'll be honest, guy. This is an example of you are projecting. You are projecting that you guys both felt at ease. The fact that she broke up with you 5 or 6 times and the fact that she would be bringing up these instances where she wanted things to change and you were blowing them off as minor and you were still allegedly probably making the changes, but even if you had all expressed, these aren't really big deals, these are minor, what are you talking about? You made her feel unheard for most of that relationship. So, and women will stay in a situation thinking, you know, if they got a good first impression of you, women are really great at like, they'll stick with you for the long haul because your first impression was so great that she's always in her mind thinking, I can get him back to the first impression of him that I had. And sometimes it takes a while for women to see like, nope, I'm never getting that back. So she spent 2 to 3 years with you thinking whatever first impression you made, I'm going to get back to that guy. And you didn't make it happen. And then you started saying stuff behind her back. And she was like, okay, this guy thinks I need to see a psychiatrist just because I brought up a few things he could do better. Like, you know what? That makes me feel unheard. It makes me feel unappreciated. It makes me feel like he sees me as classless. It makes me feel like he doesn't have a high, he doesn't think highly of me. And I don't want to date a guy like that. So I'm out of here. And she had every right to do that based on what you've told me. Based on what you told me, you still managed to make yourself look like more of the bad guy in this situation. So all that to be said is that, yeah, you're thinking it was easy and it was so blah, 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 but you really took a lot for granted, dude. You took a lot for granted. And the way that she was trying to show love to you and the way that she was trying to bring stuff to your attention, you were brushing to the side, which means you weren't being as loving to her as you thought you were. You thought you were being the logical guy and thinking, well, if I say something's not a big deal, it's just because it really isn't. And I got news for you. That doesn't make women feel heard, appreciated, or loved. You're doing all the things to make this woman not feel appreciated and loved. So is it any wonder? And then even in the breakup, you've still been doing that. So there's no reason there's no reason why she wouldn't want to get back with you. Like, you're doing all the things wrong to make her not feel like you're a worthy dater. He says, however, in the last couple of months, as I became depressed due to the stress of setting up our home and dealing with the cost, she felt neglected and believed that I didn't care about her emotional needs. Well, the reality is that she was probably feeling that for a while, and then being engaged only heightened what that was going to be. Because again, she's looking at, is the behavior that he has now going to be the way he acts in the future? So before the wedding stuff, if before the wedding stuff, you were still at times brushing off her needs or not, or saying your thing that you want is ridiculous or whatever, then that probably only got heightened when you came under stress, and marriage is stress. So if she's thinking he's acting like this now when he's stressed out, oh my God, we're going to get married? Like, this can't happen. Bottom line, dude. So I would say whatever she brought up to you during the course of that relationship that she said was a problem, reanalyze that, work on those things. Also, look back at your letter and look at the things that you said that you told to her. Those things are not okay. I would really look at the things that you said to her and think about why it is that those things maybe were off-putting, why the psychiatry comment was off-putting, why you trying to tell her that you're the reason that my mother did X, Y, and Z, and you need to change your behavior, blah, blah, blah. Why those things are not things that women are going to take too kindly to, especially in the tone that you said it. And I'll really start looking at why it is that you are so anxious in the first place, because all this just screams that you're anxious and you're very nervous about being around women and that you don't know really how to handle them in certain situations. And I would say, look at that and really start to assess what those things are, why they don't work, how you could be better. And hey, I don't mean to be harsh on you, guy. These are things that as a young guy dating, I missed out on too. I missed out on cues, or I was also a guy that would brush aside women's concerns about things like, oh, it's no big deal, I can fix that, it's whatever, and women don't want to hear that. Even the most mundane requests that women make, I've learned it is better to just be like, hey, you know what? It seems weird to me, but if it's important to her, then fine, let me look over it and we can come to some conclusion, because I don't want her brushing off my stuff, so I don't want to brush off her stuff. And that's not to say there aren't some silly things that'll bring up that you're just in your head like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But that doesn't mean you treat it like that. You can still be like, okay, well, let's figure it out. And it could be the easiest thing to you. It could be the thing that she was agonizing over for 3 days. You never know. But stop brushing off women's concerns about things when they bring them to your attention. And again, look over all the other stuff I talked about to ideally get to a better place with women overall. All right. So hopefully that helps you out. And I think that's all I have for today, guys. Also, I did a mini show yesterday. I forget what I was talking about, but check out that show also on this channel. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys need help with your dating lives in general, you can go to introvertdatingsuccess.com. Check out my one-on-one coaching. Also check out the various ebooks, audiobooks, programs, and yes, albums that are all available at the website, designed to help you learn how to date as your introverted self and still get your precious alone time. All right. Be sure to join me back here next Tuesday at 3:30. I do a new show every Tuesday at 3:30. So be sure to check that out. And that's all I got. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
Call this beat Will Smith. Call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard. Hear it now when I pull up on your boulevard. Ain't got no rims spinning, ain't got no chain blinging, but I got money, you can tell by all the hungry women. Leveled up like I'm world 8.